Hey there, welcome to video 2 of 8. We're still in week 1, and this video is about cultivating genuine curiosity in your sales conversations. For me, I used to look like I was curious, but I was quietly not curious. I will admit that. When I first started selling, I was like, I was really good at pretending to be really curious and interested, but in my head, I was just trying to get through the sales steps, like, step one, ask them about this. Step two, ask them about this. Or get through the script as quickly as I could to kind of get it over with because the idea of selling made me anxious. But I was really good at looking like I was interested. I was nodding, I'd like mirror them a little bit, things like that. And no wonder those conversations did not go well. So I'll share with you what I've recently learned about genuine curiosity. And it may come as a surprise, but genuine curiosity is about being curious. So one thing for me, people would say things like, for example, oh, I have a fear of selling. And I would assume I know what that meant. Or I would assume I would know what that was like for them. And I'm like, yeah, I can help you with that. Right this way. We'll look at your thinking and where thinking comes from, and not realizing I almost dismissed their feelings. Now, something that's really helped me is simply to ask them, like, what do you mean by that? When I first heard this, I thought I'm going to sound like a complete idiot. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean fear of sales? Like, everybody knows what that's like. Apparently not. There's this thing called separate realities, and everybody has their own personal thinking. So I learned that my fear of selling might look and feel very different to your fear of selling, even though we're using the same words to describe this feeling. And this one shift made a world of difference for me. So I started asking people, like, what do you mean by that? Can you give me an example? Like, what do you mean by that? And people were opening up to me more than they would usually do. And almost in a way, because they were saying their thinking out loud, they could hear themselves say it. Like I was already starting to help them before they had bought anything from me. Just me asking them, what do you mean by that? And them having to put all their thinking on the table and for them to get a different perspective of it, it gave them an experience of being supported, of being listened to, of being cared for. And that really changed the game for me. And so now I go into every conversation really curious about their thinking. Aaron Turner said, like, you really want to help the person lay out all their thinking on the table so you can both take a fresh look at it. And for me, the easiest and fastest way to do that is to simply ask them, like, what do you mean by that? Not as a tool or a technique, but a genuine, like, I really want to know what that's like for you. And I guess in the sales conversation, it helped us to start to build a connection where someone was genuinely interested in what their world looked like to them. Not for me to judge it, like, or like, oh, I know what that is. I'll put this in the fear box. It was, no, let us both take a fresh look at this. And that's something about genuine curiosity that has been so impactful for me. So I'm going to hand this over to Win. Win, what do you think?
I'm smiling as he said that because it's so refreshing to know how my experience is similar to yours. And from what I know about, coaches and other people in this world, that they face the same thing, how often that is. And I heard somebody say, what what we often do is we fill in the gaps ourselves with our own, what you just said, we fill in the gaps in what they're saying with our own separate reality. So they may say something like, a client may say anxiety. Well, I don't know what anxiety means to them. I don't know what that means. And to your point, I want to get really curious to know what they mean about it in their words. And going back to what we said in the previous video after the first webinar, it is about making sure that I'm really clean and I'm not contaminating my own thinking and my own agenda in any way while I am having that conversation, that initial conversation with someone to understand their world. I want to understand their world, not bring my world into theirs. I think that that really matters in two things. Because to what you just said, Nikon, I think it's great to look at the two words of genuine curiosity. Absolutely curious, of course. Genuine. I am not doing this in order that I can then sell to you. I am listening and I am being curious so I can understand. Full stop, period. I want to understand and understand you, not understand me. Because I understand what my thinking is sometimes. I understand what my thinking is a lot. So I don't want to bring those two worlds together. I want to really understand from their perspective. And to give you an example of how clumsy I used to be with this, I would have a list of questions I would ask, and it would be my go to. And if I didn't have my list of 4 to 5 questions, I would feel lost. Now I know how terrible an idea that is, because that is my agenda. It's my crutch, and it's all about me. And this has got nothing to do with me. This is me being human, out of my head, genuinely listening to somebody else. And when my mind is quiet and I'm listening to somebody else, great questions naturally come from my innate curiosity. And I mean innate, innate in the fact that we are born curious, and it's taking all the ideas that we've had since the day we were born that we might not even know are in the way of being really curious. So that's what I'd say to that, Nikon. Anything coming up for you as I shared what I said?
I was thinking for a way for people to go out and practice this as, I'm someone who learns by doing. And one thing, if you're up for homework, is go out and try it. Go out and be genuinely curious, just like Win talked about, with being curious without an agenda, and just see where it takes you. Talk to your coffee barista, talk to your kids, your partner, your coworkers. Just be genuinely curious to get a feel for it. Again, not as a tool or a technique, but what does it feel like to be genuinely curious and have that as, at least for me, it's been my kind of navigational tool, because I can know what being genuinely curious feels like versus I'm being curious for an agenda because I want something from this person. Being genuinely curious. And I'll give you a hint, people can feel you beyond your words. They get a sense of you. Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to add to that exercise, Win?
Yeah, the one thing I'd say, what you just said about they'll feel you, they'll feel if you're doing this for you. So, okay, this is homework. I want to have my homework right. Therefore, I'm going to be right. That's going to get in your way of being genuinely curious. Or another way of saying it, they may experience you as being nosy. It's just different because you know what it's like. If someone's being nosy in our business, well, that's really about them. So the feel of it is to be genuinely curious about them. Yeah, play with it and see what you notice. It's not like you can get this wrong. So play, see what you notice, and we get to talk about it on the next webinar.
Great. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.